You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Boro, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Good morning, everybody across this beautiful world of ours. Welcome to the North East Football Podcast, Three's a Crowd, the only podcast where we bring you Newcastle, Middlesbrough, and Sunderland together for a bit of banter, a bit of laugh, a few tears, but more so the laughter. We hope you're all fantastic, safe and well. What a week it's been. Newcastle's woes continue. Sunderland are finally joining us in the hell pot, and Middlesbrough's paint drying type of football has gotten even worse. We're going to both dissect each and every one of that moments. I've got the beautiful men on either side of me, starting off with Mr. Steve Wraith. Good morning to you, good sir.
Good morning, mate. How are you?
Doing well, mate. Doing very well. And Mr. Teddy Mackams, who is wearing a shirt that has been approved. Good to see you, sir.
Yes, it does not belong to an artist. Well, it belongs to this artist, as in piss artist. But yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. We're all good here.
And so is Jimmy.
And welcome, Jimmy. Good to see you, mate. Must be ecstatic now that Coventry have confirmed winning the league, going up as well. Good on to you, Jimmy. Welcome on in. Let's get straight into it. We've got a short show for you today because Middlesbrough kick off in about an hour and a half, so we've got to get things underway. Let's break it down.
Everything you want to do, yeah.
Let's look backwards. We had Middlesbrough playing last week, Newcastle playing last week. Sunderland actually played last night as well, Teddy, but we forgot to get a prediction for that. That's going to be fresh. That's going to get fresh on our minds, mate. Let's just talk to you about that because I think that's what's on everyone's lips. I mean, I woke up to that score this morning going, holy magoli. Watch the review. It made me happy because, you know, finally for once, you can join us in the trenches. Do you know what I mean? Just for this week. You know what I mean? Just for the next couple of days, at least. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like Steve and I have been in the trenches fighting the war, and you're like the officer that's been sitting up in the highlands with your golden cup drinking your tea. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've been that happy away from the trenches, and we've got mud and blood on us. You know what I mean? And finally, you got off your high throne, and you came down and you joined us in the trenches because Nottingham Forest made 5-0 on a Friday night.
Is that your way of squeezing Anzac Day into football references by getting the military? Oh, really? Really? He was diabolical for 80-odd minutes.
What a goal.
First of all, to our Antipodeans, a very happy Anzac Day. Because I know these things. I'm very cultured. And I know these sort of references, but I know it means an awful lot to our eye with it being an ex-serviceman as well. So to you and your fellow comrades, mate, hope you have a good Anzac Day together.
Lest we forget. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, speaking of forgetting, Sunderland forgot how to defend last night. It was bizarre. I sat actually kind of not even angry at half time. I'm kind of like looking at the missus going, is this real? Is this happening? It was just bizarre. I mean, first 10, 15 minutes, you think, oh, it's shaping to be a great game. This, we had a couple of chances. Chris Rigg, had a same sort of chance of what he buried against Aston Villa, I guess. A bit of a tame on, ends up at the keeper. But then we just don't defend set pieces for some reason. It was a lucky one, I guess. The first goal it comes off Trey Hume. Not an awful lot you can do about it. But then after that, what happens is people who you normally rely on, the likes of Robin Roof, had an absolute disaster of a game. To be honest with you, they quickly sussed out these sharp passes that he does. He kind of narrowly misses the forwards and plays them into the centre backs. They sussed that straight away. You've got an experienced striker in Chris Wood up there, who's very, very good. He's an intelligent player. He's not blessed with pace by any means, but he's an intelligent footballer, a bit like the Teddy Sheringham kind of mold. Yeah, exactly. So he sussed that out, and we get punished for it. And after that, it was individual errors at the back. and it's concerning now because that now is 9 goals in 2 games conceded off the back of shaky defence. Now, look, we've got to put bigger picture stuff on here as well. We were expecting this every single game before a ball was kicked at the start of this season. So we got the points on the board when we needed to. But what's really interesting about this now is you've got some of the negative crew. And to be honest, I mean, I had words with one of the admin of our Red and White Army page last night, who's saying, this is worse than the 6-0 away at Bolton. No, it wasn't, you fanny. It absolutely wasn't. It is not worse than 6-0 away at Bolton. I don't care what anybody says. And then the few said, well, there could be something in this Regis Lebris getting sacked. Really? I don't think so. It's, I can see where some of the criticism comes from and where we need to kind of adapt our game for the rest of this season for start, because it's not done yet. But for next season, we need to be able to have a plan B and C. I've mentioned this before, and this whole thing, I'm not a fan of playing defenders out of position. I don't like having Trey Hume as a left back. That just doesn't work for me at all. And obviously, you saw the error of that. We amended it. We did look a lot better in the second half. And contrary to what everybody thinks, no, everybody came back at half time. They didn't leave on 30 minutes. This isn't West Ham. We don't do that kind of thing. And to be honest, the Sunderland fans still singing, don't worry about the thing, everything's going to be all right for pretty much the whole of the second half. You've got to give it to them for sitting through that absolute shower yesterday. Is it going to be the end of Regis Lebris? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nah, it's a major blip. But what it highlights for me is not any sort of ineptitude on the coaching part or anything like that. The squad is simply too small, and those players, a lot of them looked out on their feet last night. They looked flat. They looked, where we pulled it back against Aston Villa. They just kind of, there was a feeling of even a 2-0 to Forest. I'm looking at the players and they're thinking, oh, we've got this to do again. And it kind of it looked like they were absolutely dead. So this is where we need to invest in the squad. We need people better than Alderete to come in to replace him. Now, that takes time. People talk about second season syndrome. We just need to get points on the board with as good a squad as we can get next season and just start doing a rebuild, because that's what's required. All right, the 3 lads who scored against Villa last weekend were all players who'd been with us from the previous season, in fact, previous 2 seasons. But yeah, listen, they were also at fault for the goals. Even Ballard, didn't exactly cover himself in glory last night either. We need to replace people. We need to improve the squad. It's not done in 1 or 2 windows. It's a time-taking thing. So while it's disappointing last night, it's better than having that every single week. We've got a lot to still be positive about in terms of the bigger picture of the season. We're safe. We're not going down. We haven't been getting absolutely bladdered every single week of Premier League quality. Nottingham Forest, mate, they're in a European semi-final. They're no mugs. They had a crap start to the season, in terms of the Premier League, but they're a good side. And, we got shown that. That's up to us now to dust ourselves off. We've got to now go to Wolves and turn on a performance, because if your away fans start to give you a bit of stick, that's when you're in danger, and that's what Regis Lebris needs to bear in mind. Lessons will be learned, I'm sure, even though it was a very, very disappointing game.
It was an interesting week, wasn't it, Teddy Boy? I mean, I came into the WhatsApp group pretty early on when these rumours started leaking about Regis Lebris potentially getting the sack if they weren't to reach Europe. Now, this was started off, I think, from some sort of journalist. I say journalist, I'm going to use air tag quotes there. But
it's a loose description of what he is like.
It was a very, very weird... It was a weird sort of post, I think it was, and then it was quickly shut down by other journalists, more reputable journalists, I must say, as well. But I mean, it did send a bit of a wild spark around the internet and through the Sunderland fans as well. That are Sunderland going to be that hungry? That on the back of what Regis has done, I mean, they were saying that if you weren't to make Europe, that Regis could face the sack. Now, obviously, they have come down and shut that down. But I mean, is that fair, Ted? I mean, is that? I mean, surely that was shut down pretty quickly by fans inside.
For the most part, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, look, I'm not trying to fuel the negativity brigade because I can't stand it, to be honest. I'll make no bones about it. I had a full-scale row with the admin on the page last night because some of it is absolutely moronic, what they're coming out with. Mate, you know where I'm like. I am strong opinions. That's just the way I am.
Not my Teddy.
But you've got to look at this objectively. We went into pre-AFCON with the third best defence in the Premier League. That was how we built our success. Was we remained absolutely solid and tight at the back, not letting anything past, and then obviously hitting on the counter attack. For some reason, since AFCON, it's almost like somebody's kind of let the brakes off a little bit, and they're getting a little bit too adventurous. Alderete a couple of times last night, just absolute suicide balls he's trying to play. It's just. Let's do the simple things. Let's have midfielders dropping back and opening themselves up for passes. Let's be careful with the ball. That's the biggest thing. When you look at after AFCON, we've actually got now the third worst defence in the Premier League. Which thank God for that brilliant start of the season because we would have been in amongst it. That's what needs to be addressed. I strongly feel that Regis Labrise is the right man for the job. I really do. But let's back him. Let's make sure we don't sell all of the crown jewels. Some people will be sold. That's as simple as that. How on earth you give us 6 points just shows how dross we are. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to call Newcastle dross. I'm not going to call Boro dross. You're having a bad season. There's no two ways about it. And we enjoyed our 6 points very much. Not the ones that Alan Shearer thought he was going to get, but there you go. Morning, Big Al, if you're watching. We need to learn from mistakes. We need to back the manager. The likes of it's concerning when you see the likes of Enzo Lefebvre being linked with the likes of Liverpool. That sort of player is going to leave the club for big money. But we just need to stick to our guns, know what we're bringing in. And back the manager and improve the size of that squad.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Sunderland play it from here and whether they can find that form that they had at the start of the season. Over to you, Mr. Steve Wraith, Newcastle United. Unfortunately, mate, the woes continued last weekend. It wasn't to be not getting a victory against Bournemouth. I actually thought, I thought Newcastle were going to be able to turn it around. It doesn't get any easier today. Obviously, Arsenal at the Emirates, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now for the last 5 games. The biggest thing for me, Steve, I think that, and we spoke about this in the WhatsApp, was the disappearance or the non-selection of Anthony Gordon. Now they were saying it's obviously a knock, but I mean, I think Teddy and I agreed in the WhatsApp that it was more obvious than not. With him not being selected, plus with all the news circulating around with him. But 5 games to go, mate, and you desperately need a win. I mean, you even suggested. I mean, I think Ted and I suggested it. I mean, you're not far off the likes of West Ham and Tottenham if the rows continue.
Yeah, definitely. Starting to get a little bit concerning. Newcastle United's form. I do want to announce this scam warning. I mean, if you receive an email with a heading 2 free tickets for Newcastle's next match, do not open it because it does contain 2 free tickets for Newcastle's next match. Joking aside, it has become a joke, lads. It really has. It's sad and it's worrying at the same time because we just can't. We can't find a win. We can't find a draw, but we can find defeat like an old friend, and it's becoming really concerning. And much like Ted has said, really, thank the Lord we got those wins when we did, because Newcastle at the moment are sitting in 14th place in the Premier League on 42 points, which 42 points would be considered safe, but never take anything for granted in football. Spurs are sitting on 31 points, level on games, and they're 11 points behind us. But in current form, the way that Newcastle are playing, you wouldn't put it past Newcastle to do the impossible and get relegated. But Spurs, I don't think are going to win every game.
No.
And I think that's going to be the godsend. But there's some big fixtures on the horizon for Newcastle. Got a huge one tonight, which Arsenal will have to come out and attack Newcastle because they've now gone second on goals scored. They're gonna come and attack Newcastle. But I get it. Some people are really being confident, saying, "Well, we could get something tonight. We could do this. We could do that." But for me, we haven't done it all season, and I just can't see it. I think the best Newcastle could hope for tonight would be a draw, but it's just not. It's not on my radar that Newcastle would win tonight, and I just can't see it. I'd love to be proved wrong, but then if we get beat tonight, then we go into a game against Brighton next Saturday, and Brighton are chasing Europe, sixth place. Bournemouth dropped a clanger the other night, so against Leeds. So Brighton will be coming with their tails up next weekend. One would imagine, and for me, that's a worry as well. You're then in 2 games against teams which are struggling to avoid the drop, West Ham and Nottingham Forest, and proverbial 6-pointers if Spurs do find some form, because suddenly Newcastle have lost 2 games, Spurs have won 2 games. Spurs play Wolves today, and suddenly that new manager bounce at Spurs becomes Newcastle's worst nightmare. And we know, I've seen it before. Not in a million years do I think it'll happen, but it is worth mentioning that it is a possibility. Newcastle will get dragged in it, but there's always a team that drops like the proverbial stone. The Anthony Gordon thing last week was interesting. Eddie Howe on Friday said, anyone who's not committed to the club will not be playing. And next thing Eddie Howe's team doesn't include Anthony Gordon because he's got a slight thigh strain, and that slight thigh strain has kept him out last week and now is keeping him out this week. And that's, that is going to raise a question mark. Lee Ryder asked the question in the press conference yesterday, in a roundabout way, and Eddie snapped at him. He said he is injured, Lee. It's a non-question. So, it's certainly coming back to bite him. Some of the things that he said, we made a big point of people having to be Eddie Howe fit and, not getting back into the team until they were, up to speed with the rest of the team. But in the last couple of weeks, he's put Bruno and Lewis Miley back in when they don't look up to speed. It's worrying times for Newcastle fans. I do think we've got enough points in the bag. I don't think we'll go down, but it's going to be awfully tight, and it just needs a huge reset next season, and that is the big problem. But it's not helping, all of this negativity around the club. Some people feeling going away from home might be better, but at this moment in time, we can't win home or away.
It's going to be very interesting. And Kieran Kelly actually wrote this morning, which I thought is that how Newcastle's bullies became too nice in the terms of what has happened to Newcastle United and their fall around. It was actually a good piece. I felt that Kieran Kelly wrote.
I think it's just that a lot of the players we bought are now too old to play in the Premier League at a regular level. I mean, last weekend was the first weekend that I can remember since Eddie signed where none of the player committee, if you like, have been involved. No Nick Pope, no Kieran Trippier, no Dan Burn, no Jacob Murphy, none of them in the starting 11. So
would you say the players need to take more responsibility? I mean, they've all got the social media, and I know that Bruno has often used it, but all the heat is on Eddie Howe. I get that. The manager, the buck stops with the manager. It always has and always will. But is there a level to here of what Kieran Kelly said is that the players need to take responsibility?
Yeah, of course they do. And I think, what we've seen in the last couple of weeks is that Kieran Trippier has done that. Kieran Trippier has come out in support of the manager and laid the blame firmly at the players and said, Eddie is telling us what to do and players need to do it. And, he's done another piece with Keith Downey looking back at his time at Newcastle. But, Kieran Trippier always comes across as without wanting to sound sexist, a proper bloke's bloke. You know, he's an old school footballer. He's the last of a dying breed. He's the kind who you get the impression burns the candle at both ends. You know, lives the dream, really. You know, he plays hard, but he can drink hard as well and have a night out. But you know, he looks after himself and can still put the effort in. It doesn't happen to everybody but that's like the epitome of a 1980s footballer, old school. Yeah, somebody who would go out on a Friday night, have 10 pints and have a curry, and then knock a hat trick in the next day. And that's what Kieran Trippier is like. And you've got to give him credit. He's come out and stuck by his manager and more or less, backed him up. So yeah, I think maybe a few more need to do that. But I think what is blatantly obvious is that our transfer window scuppered us this season. We got the money in for Isaac and we haven't spent it. We haven't been able to spend it on the players that we wanted. And had our transfer window seen James Trafford come in as goalkeeper, João Pedro come in up front alongside an Ekitike, then things would have been so much different. But unfortunately, replacing Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson with Nick Voltemade and Johan Wissa, it's been a disaster.
It really has, and we are obviously looking at the last 5 games for Newcastle United fans, hoping that it doesn't get anywhere close to the West Ham and Spurs. I don't think it will. I think Spurs and West Ham, I think Spurs are in a lot of trouble with the fixtures they've got coming up. And look, West Ham have found some form, but I just don't see Spurs getting out of this at all. Arsenal as well, they need a big result. Not a good time to be playing them. They've dropped into second, the proverbial bottlers. Speaking of bottlers, hello Middlesbrough fans. Good morning to you. We hope we're all fantastic, safe and well. Middlesbrough got a win in the week. Get in. We beat the team in last place 1-0. Get in. Now, if Kim Helberg described a game recently of it like watching paint dry, then the game against Sheffield Wednesday, lads, was like watching the bloke that was about to paint it on his smoko having a cigarette. It was that boring and that's that hard to watch that I was talking about how I found someone that massages horses on the live stream because the football was that dross. Did you know that there's actually someone that goes around and massages horses and gets the knots out of their hamstrings and stuff? What a job that'd be. What a kick he'd get out of that. It was absolutely horrid to watch Middlesbrough play, but we won. And that's all that matters. And Kim Helberg said it at the end of the game as well. He said, look, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't great football, but we needed the 3 points. And that's exactly right. We have got the chance still, even though we've got 2 games to go, Watford and then Wrexham, Disneyland away. For our last 2 games of the season, we still mathematically can knock Ipswich off the top. But my gosh, do we need some results to go away. Millwall slipped up last night. They got a 1-1, and that doesn't take them further away from us. But my God, we need to win both of these games today, starting at Watford. And then we've got Wrexham next weekend. The confidence right now in the Middlesbrough squad seems to be shot. And I think obviously 2 months of the results we've been having, the way we've been playing, I think has seemingly done that. But we've taken Hayden Hackney, their best midfielder. We've now seen him win Player of the Season, Championship Player of the Season, and we've taken him out. And ever since we've taken him out, lads, we have struggled and we have dropped like flies. We are now down to 5th. Funnily enough, it's again one of those same things that you were saying. Luckily, we got the points when we did because the recent run we've had has kept us in that playoff zone. I think if we had have had this run earlier or we had lost the likes of Hayden Hackney when we did, we would be in a lot of trouble. So it's very, very interesting to see, and it needs to start today. It was a good, promising performance to see that we could turn an ugly game into a 3 points against Sheffield Wednesday. We'll need to do the same against Watford and then especially against Wrexham next weekend. Middlesbrough have got the early kickoff, lads. We will be kicking off quite soon. So we're going to look ahead at that. Newcastle have obviously got Arsenal later on tonight, and obviously Sunderland played yesterday. But it's time to have a quick break because we need to sit back. We need to have a laugh. I need a smile. All right. All we've heard is how Sunderland got smashed 5-0. Newcastle's woes, Middlesbrough's paint drying. So let's sit back. Let's have a bit of a laugh because it's time for Troll of the Week.
And breaking news from the Rotherham Bugle. Difficult start to the championship for former champion Williams as his balls get jammed in Joseph Pocket in the opening match. Here's a rare photo of a shark stepping on Lego. And so you're not a Terminator anymore. Negative. I retired. Now I kill bugs. I am a ex-Terminator.
Oh, nah. I can't. Gee.
Can't beat this neighborhood, lads. Morning wood. And why not drive like Tiger?
Oh.
And let's hope this sign isn't true. Prince Andrew's close.
Run.
I like this. I know you like your food, Ted. It looks like chicken, but it's actually chocolate. Pistachio filled.
Wow. So that's kind of like cocklet?
Yeah, you could say that.
I think I can say that.
Yeah. Rye, your new sportswear's just arrived. Yep. And wanted someone to brush their teeth with me because 9 out of 10 dentists say brushing alone won't help tooth decay. No weirdos, please. If you've ever been down to London, London, and got on the tube, you will see this sign every now and then that crops up at the station. I love this. On St. George's Day, they listed a load of Georges. George Michael, saint of Club Tropicana. George Best, saint of football. George of the Jungle, saint of swinging. Not that kind. George Clooney, son of saint of ER. George Harrison, saint of guitars gently weeping. Prince George, saint of young princes. George R. Martin, saint of thrones. George Martin, saint of Abbey Road Studios. George Takei, saint of trekking stars. George Formby, saint of cleaning windows. Dr. Alex George, saint of mental health. George Foreman, saint of boxing and grills. George Lucas, saint of a galaxy far, far away.
Yep.
George the Hippo, saint of rainbow. George Pig, saint of younger brother pigs. Boy George, saint of chameleons, the karma kind. Max George, saint of the unwanted. Helen George, saint of calling midwives. George Orwell, saint of 1984. Curious George, saint of being curious. George Cusoro, saint of Towie. Georgie Porter, we're scraping the barrel now, saint of Hollyoaks.
Just a bit.
George Ezra, saint of Budapest and Paradise. Georgia Taylor, saint of Coronation Street. And George, saint of Supermarket Road. Well done to Alan.
Whoever wrote all that out, well done.
Well done. Great. Take one tablet by mouth right into the eye. God, honestly, you get some great stuff in Texas. And wife says to her husband, do you want to change positions tonight? He says, yeah. She says, okay, you do the dishes and I'll sit on the couch and fart. And a message for vegetarians, if you're trying to save the animals, why are you eating their food? It's a good point. Sinead O'Connor and the Chuckle Brothers have released a single, Nothing Compares to Me to You. And this girl said she was easily attracted to men with power. KP replied, I've just paid me light bill. And breaking news, Starmer has just denied that he knew that he was Prime Minister. So Keir Starmer has revealed that no one told him until last Tuesday that he'd won the 2024 election and had become Prime Minister. He told Beth Rigby, I was totally kept in the dark by my officials and I'm really angry about it. Recent photo of Newcastle United's team. and a great one from Ted this week. If Cat wore pants, would it be like A or B?
I need to know.
Anybody?
I need to know.
Put it in the comments.
B makes more sense, I guess, but
it definitely does. It's definitely B. But anybody out there know? I mean, it would need a belt, wouldn't it, for A?
It's B.
I'll remember that when we get the new one.
Okay. Francis Chipp last night was on full form. Sunderland are absolutely desperate to be as shit as us. Grow up. And he followed that up with. He followed that up with a new Premier League record. 14,856 fans left Sunderland Stadium of Light immediately after Nottingham Forest's fourth goal in the 37th minute, the highest number of first-half fan departures in Premier League history. I did reply to him till half-time. There we go. And that was a great flag last week.
Whoa.
Oh, I love that.
Best flag of the week, that Panic on the Streets of London. And Football Funnies put this one out. Decent hot dog at Eintracht Frankfurt at $4.80. It's a solid portion for the price. That's bloody ridiculous, that.
It's an absolute Ron Jeremy, that, isn't it?
Aye.
Hell.
Dan Burns' Wikipedia was attacked this week.
Solid.
Born the 9th of May, he loves Parmos, famously said on live television, why do people from Boro have such big appendages and are so mint crack? Wish I wasn't trapped in Geordie land and can go smog mania. Upper Berra. So there we go. Kids today will never understand the joys of finding a magazine in a bush.
It's true. It's true.
And quote of the day from James Ward: Spurs getting called up to the European Super League is like Banana Man getting called up to the Avengers. Who is this Keith Irving? And good to see Leroy Rossini getting a payoff this week.
God.
And if he did say, I'm not really sacked. If you think about it, sacked is 2 words, sack and Ed. Ed is sacked. My name is Liam. And club with the most runner-up finishes in the England League: Manchester United 17, Arsenal 11. Even for runners-up itself, Arsenal is still a runner-up.
Second at being second. That's just poetry.
And even the main sponsor is second.
Global T. Oh my
No.
God. No.
Leicester City relegated to the second division. Their new chant is great. We've been to PSV and Napoli, Copenhagen, Rome. Now we're off to Bromley. Bromley at home.
Is that the beautiful South?
I think so, yes. And anyone who has seen the train advert will be getting sick of it by now. I have dreams of strangling that puppet. Somebody replied this week. Tweet of the week this week, which we'll finish on, is this one. Steve Hines spent the morning doing a signing with Kevin Keegan at his house. Glad to report he's doing very well. So great to see that. War Kev.
Yeah.
Still not out the woods yet, but yeah, good to see him back on his feet and getting out.
At least he's on his feet.
Doing a bit of business. That is Troll of the Week. If you've got any, send them to me and the lads. We'll feature them next week.
Welcome back to Three's a Crowd, the only Northeast football podcast where we bring Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough together. The season end is nigh. 2 games to go for Middlesbrough, 4 for Sunderland, 5 for Newcastle United to see how we make out of this season. Middlesbrough are kicking off in about an hour and a half time, lads. So we have got to get the show on the road, but it's just a quick one, lads. The Liam Rosewater sacking this week. I mean, absolutely 6-year deal. I mean, he was so close to finishing his project. Just your thoughts on the thing that's just, I know we're Northeast, but I just got to talk about it. Like, Chelsea have gone and they've spent, I think I said to you guys, I think I put it in the WhatsApp, it's £650,000 per day loss in debt. So there's 650 every day that goes by. Chelsea are losing £600,000. They now have to pay out Liam Rosewater, and the problem they've got is they've spent £1 billion pounds on players, all under the age of 23, hoping that they will get a sell-on value. I mean, Steve.
Look, for me, it's a car crash of a club, Chelsea, and the situation that's developed over the last few years is bonkers. But Chelsea can afford to get away with this kind of madness, and that's the problem. I don't understand why Leroy Rossini became, a caricature of himself. He's ended up like David Brent. That's basically what he's ended up like, and his ex-teammates are like scratching their heads because that's just not him. Why he did that? Why he's become that? I don't know. I mean, Chelsea, I think, had something in his contract, so I do believe he walked away with about £4 million, not the 25 that was reported. But even so, £4 million for such a short amount of work is absolutely ludicrous, For me, I think he's done his reputation more damage than good. And I just don't see, I don't see him getting, his hands on another Premier League club in anytime too soon. As for Chelsea, they'll just continue to go on in the same way. Nothing will change. They are literally just blatantly, flagrantly breaking the rules, which Newcastle aren't allowed to do. And, laughing when they get, a financial penalty. So it's sad. And it's just a sad indictment of football at this moment in time,
It really is, Teddy boy. I mean, Ted, this week we've seen West Brom deducted 2 points. 2 weeks ago, we saw Leicester City deducted 6 points. But yet we're still sitting on 137 charges for Man City and the likes of $1 billion spent in transfers on players under the age of 23 in Chelsea FC, paying out a manager that was on the side, on the board for 6 years. It doesn't take Einstein to put that doesn't make sense.
Well, nothing makes sense at Chelsea though. I found this stat absolutely staggering, to be honest. Chelsea have had more managers in the Premier League era than what they did before the Premier League actually existed. So they've actually had 19 managers since the invent of the Premier League in their entire history before the Premier League existed. They had 18. That's bizarre. That tells you that something is seriously wrong with the way that club's doing business. I don't know whether Jacob's watching the show. Like it was my pal who I work with, who's a Chelsea fan, but they just all left scratching their heads, going, "It was never the right appointment." I've got nothing against Rosenior because I think he's a good young coach. Something really, really weird has gone on with him though, because that's not the same guy that was coaching Hull. No. It's like some creepy android version from a 1980s sci-fi movie. He's more like Dave from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's something creepy has gone on there. It's like a doll of him or something. There is a good coach in there, and it's not his fault that he's just ended up with the absolute mess that Chelsea is. But getting back to what you're saying, the way they're running that business, to be losing 630 grand a day, I mean, that's more than an admin fail. That you've got to be looking at that and go, well, how are they still going? Because the revenue ain't that much. The money they've been spending on wages, on players, everything like that. There's got to be serious questions asked, and why we are waiting still for those 137 charges to materialise against Man City, which I don't think we'll ever see it. I really don't think we'll ever see it. Somebody needs to be looking into Chelsea as well, because it's beyond a joke, the amount of money that they're absolutely frittering away. What that'll end up with, it'll be the fans who suffer, because the rich boys will eventually go, sod it, I've had enough of this and walk away, and the club will go under. That's how easy it happens. So, I don't get it, Teddy boy. And the American owners, we keep looking at it as well, and they literally just said it in their financial reporting as well, of how much they've had to borrow from banks in order to get themselves out of debt. But that puts themselves in more debt. It's absolutely astonishing, and Chelsea fans, good luck to you. It seems an absolute mess at the moment, and unfortunately, I think as well, none of the players. I mean, the likes of the players they've gone and signed this season, and Liam Delap, he's done nothing. Do you know what I mean? There's so many players there that have fallen away. That is incredible to see. So, well, anyway, nobody cares because up the three Northeast clubs, but it's going to be very interesting to see. Middlesbrough play very, very soon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So let's get into it. It is retro round, and lucky I've got two retro dudes next to me because we've got retro shirt day at the Riverside. It is Middlesbrough taking on Watford at home in the last home game of the regular season. Middlesbrough will be taking on Watford, hoping for 3 points because 3 points is the only chance they have of staying in touch of potentially getting the top two. Middlesbrough will still be without Riley McGree and Hayden Hackney, confirmed yesterday by Kim Hellberg, who was asked, when is Hayden Hackney going to return? And Kim Hellberg's response, I don't know. Don't know. Yeah.
Fantastic to hear about that one. Riley McGree potentially returning to training next week. We hope to God we can see our player of the season back in Borough colours very, very soon. Middlesbrough will be at home, as I said, against a tough opposition in Watford, who have failed to beat Middlesbrough have failed to beat on the past 3 occasions. Can you believe it? It's going to be very interesting to see how Middlesbrough line up. Will they change their squad from that victory over Sheffield Wednesday? Will we see any of the players returning from injury? Well, we haven't got long to wait. Teddy boy, Middlesbrough need to win in order to stay in touch with Ipswich and Millwall, who are fighting it out for second. If a loss or draw today was to happen, that is pretty much our top 2 chance gone. Not that it's already there, I would say. It's all pretty much written in stone that we got the playoffs. But if there was to be any hope of taking it to Wrexham, mate, it's a win today or bust for the Borough. How do you see us against Watford?
Well, first of all, for the retro shirt day, if Borough fans haven't got their retro shirt yet, get down to the shopping centre, go to ASB Shirts, go and see Bodge. He's an absolutely great lad, running a very good business there. Loads of Borough shirts, but also, interestingly, loads of like Janino-based stuff. He's even got Sunderland shirts, England shirts. His collection is absolutely phenomenal. So get yourselves down there because he's a cracking lad. He's a mate of a mate. And it's nice to see a local business actually thriving like that. Superb stuff. Onto the Borough. Yeah. It's an interesting one. I hate Watford, man. I don't hate Watford. I hate playing against them because we never seem to do well. And Borough seem to have that same sort of chip on their shoulder with them as well. So I think you will get the win today. I just think it's going to be very, very similar to what you've seen against Sheffield, where you've just got to be patient and get behind the team. It was some of that was a tough watch. I joined you for a little bit of your watch along, but then I had pains to go and watch dry as well, so I had to kind of leave halfway through. Yeah, it's the fans. Obviously, it's the last home game of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes,
correct.
It is. Yep. Of the regular season.
Yeah.
The thing now is, I guess, what a fantastic picture. Dear me. Yeah, listen, you're jockeying for position now as to who's going to have the first leg in terms of your playoffs. Whether you finish 4th, whether you finish 5th is going to be important on who gets that home tie first. I think you get the win today. I think you'll cement 4th place, to be honest. I'm going to go a dicey 2-1, I think, today, mate.
I'm going to go a 1-0 to Borough in a Boro game again, but I think we're going to be able to fight it out. I think we found a way, in the way we're playing, to find a result like we did against Sheffield Wednesday. Stevie, Wraith, Elton John's finest come to the Riverside this afternoon. Early kickoff, mate. In retro shirt day, can Middlesbrough hold on to the hopes of potentially a top 2 finish?
Yeah, I think they'll win 2-1. I think, I think the Hackney thing's interesting. I think Hackney could be back for the playoffs. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe he's playing it cute. Maybe he's keeping his secret weapon ready for the playoffs. But yeah, I think you'll have more than enough to beat them today. I've got no doubt about it. So yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. Happy end of the home games.
Over to Newcastle United. They're off to Arsenal. The absolute fantastic bottlers that they are. Thank you so much, Arsenal, for giving us all the memes this week. They've fallen into second place, but Newcastle United aren't in the greatest run of form. They have got 3 back-to-back 2-1 losses on the bounce, and they have to go to Arsenal today, Teddy boy, to try and turn what's left of their season around. If they are only hopes of Europe or anything like that, then it needs to start today, and it's no easy opposition. Arsenal will be looking to bounce back. Obviously, Man City taking them on goal difference, but a tough loss last weekend. Declan Rice coming out saying it's not done, almost on the verge of tears. I don't know whether it's good signs for Arsenal or bad signs for Newcastle, mate, but we've got Arsenal v Newcastle today. How do you see it playing out?
This is not based on any form of logic or form or anything else, but I've just got a sneaky suspicion that Newcastle will actually do them today, I think there's absolutely heaps and heaps of pressure on Arsenal. Arsenal now play twice before Man City play a game because of the FA Cup fixture. Now, for me, Arsenal now are trying to play catch-up, and that's not the position they thought they were going to be in at this stage of the season. I think they're going to bottle it and absolutely bottle it big style. Why have you just gone into black and white? That looked weird.
I don't know.
It's retro.
I went retro. It's retro.
We're there, Steve. I say, right, it's going to start talking like that and talk about the Middlesbrough game. It should be 2-0 to the Boro.
From the Riverside, 1984.
Yeah, listen, I genuinely think Arsenal are going to colossally balls this up. And I think Newcastle are going to come away with this with a 1-0 win, mate. I really do.
I'm still great. I can't fix it. Steve, over to you, mate. It's going to be interesting today to see what happens with Newcastle. Can they turn it around? It doesn't come any easier, mate, with Arsenal, who will be looking to try and secure first place again. You are away from home. Your run away from home, used to be pretty poor at the start of the season when you were getting results at home, but it's hard to break down what type of Newcastle we're going to see today, what Eddie Howe's going to select. How do you see it playing out, mate?
I've got no confidence in Newcastle's team at all today. I think Newcastle will continue on the same road, and I think we'll probably come away with a 3-0 defeat. I can't see Arsenal slipping up today, and they play better without Saka. Saka's not playing today. Newcastle have got no Joe Linton, no Anthony Gordon. They are going to be missing Tino Livramento. I would imagine, like a lot of people do, that Nick Pope may come back in today, but we just haven't had we haven't got the goals in this team, and we're conceding goals like they're going out of fashion. I would be very surprised if we didn't go 5 at the back. So maybe my prediction of 3-0 may be too much, but I can't see anything other than a Newcastle defeat today.
Oof, I don't even know where to go with this one. I honestly, I think Arsenal are going to try and bring it back. Obviously, they need to get it back. Newcastle's woe is going to continue. Eddie Howe doesn't seem to have an answer recently. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Arsenal because you've done 3 2-1s. I'm just going to continue down the path. Who am I to say what's going to be different? But it's going to be very interesting to see Newcastle United, obviously, with Arsenal away. Then it's Brighton, Nottingham Forest, West Ham and Fulham to finish the season for Newcastle United. Sunderland, on the other hand, obviously they played last night. There won't be a game. We'll have a podcast in between, but they have got Wolves away, Man United at home, Everton away and Chelsea at home. What an end to the season that's going to be for the Mackems. And then Middlesbrough, obviously, as we said, we have Watford in about an hour's time and then Wrexham away. Then we potentially go into the playoffs. So there may be a longer season ahead for Middlesbrough fans to continue with the Premier League, boys, but it's going to be very interesting. The time is now. The time is now for Newcastle, Sunderland and Middlesbrough. The season is ending. It is upon us. The World Cup is just around the corner. If there was to be anything from the 3 Northeast teams this season, any European, anything that you're going to get next season, the time is now. And Middlesbrough, Newcastle and Sunderland need to start firing. Newcastle and Sunderland obviously holding into the Premier League. Middlesbrough, oh boy, would love to join them. Looked like it was, a shoe-in a couple of months ago, but now it seems to be all at sea. Time will tell, lads. Time will tell. But the only way to follow all of it as we heartbreakingly watch along will be right here on Three's a Crowd, the only Northeast podcast. I thank Mr. Steve Wraith. I thank Mr. Teddy Mackems next to me for joining me. Thank you so much, boys. Have a safe trip if you're off to the Emirates this afternoon, or tonight, I should say. For the Newcastle United fans, Middlesbrough fans will be already starting to line up and get into the Riverside Stadium. Have a fantastic day out in Retro Round. Sunderland boys, relax, lick your wounds. You have got Wolves next week. Rob Edwards is a guaranteed loser, so you will have to you'll be able to win that one easily and get it back next weekend. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Three's a Crowd. We appreciate all of you tuning in live. For those watching it back, make sure you leave us a comment. Let us know where you're watching from, and we will see you all right here next weekend on Three's a Crowd.
A man from Spalding in South Australia has a joke. An 8-foot man searched the world for an 8-foot woman with no success. Finally, he settled on 2 4-foot women and screwed them together.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.